Welcome to another TerranScapes video, and in this video I'm showcasing the completed project for the display board, which is themed on the Pandoran world from the movie Avatar. I don't really know where to begin with this board. There's quite a bit that's of interest in it, at least from my perspective, but perhaps maybe it's easiest just to start from the front and work our way back. So what I've done is I've veneered all the sides of the board with thin cherry veneer, and then stained that and then varnished it. And one of the things that I was really pleased about is I'm getting quite a bit better at getting nice seams on the corners. And I used a different adhesive, so I feel like this is on pretty solid. This isn't going to detach, and really gives it a nice dressed up look. I ended up going with the reddish cherry stain, as I thought it might be a nice contrast to the sort of cold of the stone from the floating mountains. I'm not really tip-top on colors though, so thoughts on that, always welcome. And then that leads me to the river. I think the river came out really well. I tried to flank it with some low vegetation along the sides to give it that sort of wet jungle-ish look without getting something too tall in the front so that it wouldn't conceal miniatures placed on it. I added in quite a bit of different vegetation. I went from a lot of bright colors, different sorts of popping out colors, since the Pandoran world had quite a bit of different vegetation. I felt like that would sort of capture some of that otherworld feel. And here you can see the Tree of Souls, which was shown in another video, and it's mounted on this hill, and the hill is removable, so I'll take that out for right now just to show you that there's plenty of space if you wanted to remove that to place miniatures down on the board, depending on the kind of army and the number of miniatures that you have. The waterfalls are somewhat similar to some waterfalls that I've done in the past. I've done a little bit of cascading froth coming away from them, and I have the waterfall coming up to a cutout within the mountain, and there's one in the back as well, a little bit smaller, and I've sort of added some tufts to give it a little bit of a foam spray coming off of the bottom there. The board is 3 parts, so there's 3 sections. This was originally developed this way in order to be able to ship it. This is planned to go to Australia, and so the restrictions for box sizes necessitated that I break the board up into multiple parts. The floating mountain, the second floating mountain here, is tipped. I don't know if you can see that. It's tipped just a little bit up so that when miniatures are placed on it, it will tip just a little bit down, and then it will sit pretty flat. My hope is that other miniatures placed on here will counterbalance that. It's really going to depend on the kinds of miniatures that are placed on it, whether they're plastic, whether they're metal. I probably would not recommend a whole bunch of metal miniatures on this piece, partly just because it's suspended so far away from the main mountain. And I didn't want to do 3 waterfalls on this piece because I thought it would really give it that tripod look and would break up that illusion. If I pan back, they're a little bit, well, let me get out of the light. They're a little bit offset from the center line to help give it that illusion that it's suspended in the air, and I think the vines coming off of it, really help to give that illusion for this piece quite a bit better, actually. But again, that does limit a little bit about the weights that can be placed on here, although you could counterweight it on this side. And this piece does separate from the main mountain, which I needed to do for shipping, so that then these could be bent slightly to alter the tip a little bit by the end customer to adjust for the final weights of the miniatures that he might like to place on it. As I mentioned before, I tried to do taller vegetation in the back and a little bit lower to the front, and I did add a variety of clumps, but I really tried to keep them in isolated patches so that there'd still be space to place miniatures around various points. But you can see up here, let me just put a few miniatures up here just to show you. Whoops. There we go. Stay there. That this is just a rank of 10 Corsairs in this case, so there's quite a bit of space up there to place 2 probably full units of 5x4 or a whole, the equivalent of that many miniatures. So there's quite a bit of space for miniatures up top. So this should provide for quite a bit of flexibility for the numbers of miniatures that wanted to be displayed. The customer had originally wanted it to be viewable from the 360 perspective, and so the boards are finished on all sides with the veneer. This is totally viewable from any angle, and should be equally interesting from all those different perspectives. And you might like a little close-up photo of some of the features, so let me do that.
So here's the waterfall, and I tried to create a different effect with this water where it's sort of falling in cascading plumes. If you look at an actual waterfall, it doesn't really fall as an even sheet. It actually sort of billows and plumes on the way down, and so I've tried to emulate that in the water effect material that I use. To some effect, actually. I think I could have accentuated it slightly more, but overall I'm pretty pleased with how they came out. And here you can see a little close-up of, let's see if I can get out of the light, there we go, a little close-up of some of the vegetation on the vines to try to give it that mossy, growing look, sort of emulating a little bit of how the movie vines looked. And you can see a little close-up detail, I hope that's focused, there we go, of the rock sculpture. I used a slightly different carving technique for these, which I think works better at this larger scale, and you'll probably see some iteration of that in future work. And again, a little close-up of the vegetation. Some of these pieces, I'm always collecting different pieces, and as I run out of different vegetation, plastic, and I go for a hunt for more, it creates quite a bit of an assortment in my box that I can draw from. And so I'd estimate, in total number, there's probably maybe 12 or maybe 13 different pieces of plant life that I've drawn from to create the different pieces in the world, and that, I think, end result is to produce a much more biologically believable environment rather than having the same 3 or 4 plants replicated over and over around. So I've tried to create really a high amount of variety, and even by picking apart different parts and using them in different ways to sort of create that effect of multiple plants. And here's the little close-up of the ripples coming off of the waterfall. I think that came out really nice, and I've done a little bit of that in the back as well, and you can see that there. So that just gives you a little perspective of the overall layout of the board, as well as a close-up of some of the details on it.
So that just gives you an overall of what the finished project looks like. Of course, you can always go to TerranScapes.com to see the close-up photos. This will be listed in the custom work gallery, and in that I should say in the front page, there'll be an update on new additions to the site, and it'll have links to that so that you could find it more easily. But the custom works gallery shows all of the different custom projects I've done to date, and you can get a sense of some of the variety of the work that I've done and some of the technical improvements over time, and get some ideas about maybe something you'd like to see in the future. Although the custom work queue is usually full, and I have people who are waiting to try to get on it, so it is a bit of a challenge, but I've got a couple smaller projects coming up, and so I'm hoping that I'll be able to open up a couple slots in the near future for some new ideas, new customers. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the overall look, and comments are always welcome. I appreciate some of the feedback that I get, and often viewers of the videos give me some fresh ideas on things I can do in future projects, which I'm always eager to hear. And that's, I guess, the Pandoran themed display board intended for Wood Elves.